I want to tell you a story about a guy called Dave, who was a perfectly normal bloke. Everything about his life was normal. Wife, kids, family, normal job, paid the bills. He had his friends, he enjoyed the football. Everything about Dave was incredibly typical, all apart from one thing. Dave had a pet lion. Now, if that isn't already unique enough, this lion wasn't a normal lion. It didn't seem to age as all animals age, moving forward in time, getting older. No, this lion seemed to get younger and get older. It had been with him for as long as he could remember, since he was a kid, from when his memory started to begin. The funny thing is, Dave first remembered the lion from when he was a kid and his nan had passed away. And Dave really struggled with this, but there the lion was. And he would spend time with the lion. It was a source of his comfort for when things were really tough and he was feeling down. He'd spend time with this lion, he'd feed it, care for it. The lion would get bigger and he'd feel better about himself. But then when things were better, he'd spend a little bit less time with the lion. It was a bit of a toxic relationship. And then he'd come back in time and the lion had grown a little bit smaller. So it's a very strange thing, but stay with me because there is going to be a message in the story that I'm telling you right now. Everyone that was really close to Dave, everyone that cared for Dave, was concerned about his relationship with the lion. His kids were concerned, his wife was concerned, his friends, everyone had brought it up to Dave, but it becomes so normalised to Dave. He wasn't concerned about his relationship with the lion because it had always been there. And again, it was a source of comfort for him when things were hard. If he had a stressful day at work, he'd go visit the lion, feed it. One day his wife noticed that the lion was getting particularly large. This was almost an adult lion, and she was really worried that one day this lion was going to kill Dave. But Dave pushed back. He said to his wife, "It's fine. The lion's always been there. I feel happy, I feel comfortable." Then one day, Dave was made redundant. He'd lost his job. The company could no longer afford to pay his salary. And this was the first domino in a long line of dominoes. His dad passed away. A lot of his friends moved away. He stopped doing hobbies. He was really into the gym. He was really into football. He stopped doing all of these things, spending more time on his own with the lion. Things got worse and worse, and the lion got bigger and bigger. Dave was spending more time with it. He was feeding it more and more. Until one day, Dave's wife got up like any other normal day, and she went downstairs to find Dave dead on the floor with the lion just sort of sat on its hind legs next to Dave. Obviously horrified, she called 999. People came over to obviously move the body and figure out what had happened. So if I was to ask you what had killed Dave, you'd probably say the lion, right? Obviously. Dave had died of a heart attack because he was a heavy drinker, was obese, overweight, and because he'd stopped being active, his body had been stressed enough to the point where his heart could no longer function in the way it was supposed to function. The twist of this story is that the lion never existed. The lion's a metaphor, and the lion is a metaphor for Dave's negative emotion, Dave's bad habits, the things in life that Dave would use to cope with life's stresses. His drinking, his smoking, his junk food, his lack of activity, his sloth on an evening where he would just sit, scroll away on his phone and absorb content. And as the lion was, these things were a source of comfort for Dave. Only it's okay to do these things in moderation. And the analogy here is that when that lion's a little cub, it's not dangerous. These things in moderation and in short doses are not dangerous. But when you allow that negative feedback loop to start rolling, and you engage in more of these behaviors, and these become your little comfort bubble, and whenever you get a negative emotion, your brain sort of is conditioned to treat that negative emotion with these coping strategies and not a healthier way. You're feeding this lion. This lion's getting bigger and bigger until one day these things get so big that they consume you. The main core message of this story is that life is hard, life is stressful. A lot of these negative emotions are going to come up, but you do not need to further that cycle by feeding them, because this just ingrains the habits, the thinking, the thoughts, the beliefs further and further until, if you're unlucky, or maybe even not so unlucky, it reaches the natural end where even if you don't die, you lose your mobility, you lose your enjoyment of life. Something bad is going to happen if you keep feeding the lion.